Thank you for coming again live to Within the Cauldron episode. Tonight we are interviewing Anthony Rella. He is a licensed mental health counselor and an author and a workshop presenter, magic worker, psychotherapist, working in his own private practice. He has been studying and practicing in his tradition of witchcraft and magic for more than 15 years, and he has been a mentor and teacher of the Morning Star Mystery School for the past 5 years. Anthony is also a founding member and vice president of the Seattle Temple of the Fellowship of the Phoenix. So I'd like to welcome everybody, Anthony, to the stage. Hi, Anthony.
Hi, good to see you.
And I just want to say thank you for coming on Within the Cauldron. Um, I just got done with your newest book, Slow Magic. It's amazing. I just
Thanks.
want to let you know that. The title, how I found that online. The title catch my eye because Slow Magic is kind of like a catchy title for me, and I just couldn't wait to get it and see what it was all about. Um, it's more than a book about using spiritual practices. Can you tell the audience what Slow Magic is about in your own words?
Yeah, I'd say slow magic is, in some ways, it feels like a kind of a summary and a distillation of everything I've learned from practicing and studying magic in the past 15 to 20 years, and particularly about using magic to kind of fortify us in our lives and moving through difficult circumstances, and persevering and moving towards our will and desire in spite of setbacks or oppositions, and just using the magical worldview, and all of its contradictions and complexities to orient ourselves in a way that we can feel like we're really participating fully in life.
Yeah, and some of the chapters you have, the name of them was like Traps and Fear. Um, you know, um, Time is cycle and releasing and renewing, doing and being. I mean, they're pretty interesting chapters. May I add? Um, you know, just the names of the chapters, like, oh wow, really had to get this book. I'm glad I did because I just really like it a lot. What made you write this book, Slow Magic?
Well, I want to say it's a few years ago, and I was reflecting on the kind of changes happening culturally and politically and in the world, and really feeling that there were certain things happening in the news that I was noticing. Things that were important to me were kind of the winds were changing, and suddenly uh, there was like a losing of ground of things that were important to me, and I recognized that um, to kind of create the life that I want and to build the world I want to live, and that I hope that we can share in and all participate in together. I want the people who are really aligned with me to have this kind of long-term endurance and this ability to kind of keep going, and just seeing how that kind of perseverance, even when it seems like everything's lost, can actually end up paying off, and that people can win these big victories that seemed impossible. And so I was just kind of sitting with all that and just thinking about my own life and magical history. And it's not like I've had the hardest life ever, but I've certainly had times where I felt hopeless and powerless, and felt like I just didn't have any opening. When in the 2008 2009 recession, I was kind of a loser in that, and I didn't have a job, and I was really struggling to kind of get my feet under me.
Mhm.
And so that was a moment when I really leaned hard on my spiritual practice, and felt like that really helped me to persevere and create opportunities. And that's what magic is so wonderful at, is to make things appear that seemed impossible. Whether you think of it as metaphorically or not, it's about, creating these openings where the
Mhm.
way it seemed blocked. And so I just felt called that I really wanted to bring those experiences and what I learned from that forward to kind of help all of us to kind of persevere through difficulty.
So, because I noticed with your books, the Circling the Star and the Slow Magic, um, that it does pertain a lot on doing some really deep spiritual practice,
Mhm.
and which is good because with what's going on today,
Mhm.
and probably even the past too,
Mhm.
um, a lot of people is looking themselves like, do I matter? Like,
Mhm.
where's my life going? Um, maybe if I just unlive myself, everything would be better.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
it's just so sad,
Mhm.
about all that is that is going on. Um, Now you do have a book, The Midnight Hour,
Mhm.
about emotions. I think
Mhm.
that you did 2020, 2021.
Mhm.
And this is a book is on my list because I'm really support, mental health and everything because it is real and it's there in all of us, actually. We all have some kind of an issue. So
Mhm.
on the midnight hour, can you explain? Because I think I haven't read it yet, but just the title of it itself is like
Mhm.
it's deep in your emotions,
Mhm.
kind of like a
Mhm.
self-reflecting type of book.
Yeah, yeah, it's a collection of small essays and blog posts I'd written over the years that my publisher and I put together around the theme. And as you're describing it back to me, I'm like, oh, it's not the same as Slow Magic, but it's
Mhm.
thematically similar because it's about um, working with difficult, painful feelings and trying to become empowered around them. And so that's been a big focus of my life and my work in a lot of ways. But in the midnight hour in particular is about really facing some of the things you were talking about, those really painful feelings that are really hard to be with, understandably for all of us.
Yeah.
And what I've found is that it's not, I don't want to be living there all the time. I don't want to be flooded by that. But if we can spend time with them, if we can kind of face them and kind of be with them, they actually sometimes have things to teach us. They have gifts to offer. They can actually help us to find acceptance, kind of paradoxically. And so it's just a kind of a lot of different perspectives around that difficult emotions.
And I know you do workshops because you just came back from a workshop from Portland
Mhm.
earlier this month or last month. On your workshops um, that you teach, now do you go from kind of like a little bit from each book that you have written, or is
Mhm.
it focus on others? Oh, I should say other issues that
Mhm.
are going on.
Yeah, what I've been focused on this time or these past few months is around promoting the book. So the workshops have been really kind of drawing from the book mostly, but I like to do all kind. I've done a lot of different kinds of workshops, and I've done sometimes for small communities. I was doing like trance skills development, and I've done some workshops for mental health therapists, and so It's usually what I find is, when I go through something and I come out of it and feel like, okay, I learned something about myself or the world, then I'm
Mhm.
like, okay, now I'm going to make a workshop to like, because I'm sure somebody else is going through this too, so maybe I can bring what I just learned, and that could be helpful for them.
Oh, yes, more certainly.
Mm.
Um, with your books now, um, as a lot of people is into shadow
Mm.
work right now, um, which when I teach my coven or my children, friends, family, I'm really big on that, on shadow work and stuff.
Mhm.
So, do you kind of like, uh, I guess you said, do you like tell people that they should do shadow work because
Mhm.
it's kind of like part of a process for the mental issues, especially like the triggers, or do you kind of go to a different place with shadow work?
Hmm. That's an interesting question, and I don't think about shadow work as much as I used to. Not that I think it's unimportant or I'm not doing it, but
Yeah.
it's kind of a paradigm of looking at ourselves that I think is really useful and really powerful. But my
Mhm.
paradigm's shifted a little bit slightly, and so now I think it's still the same. Like I think we still want to kind of if we want to become powerful and in integrity and really know ourselves, then we want to be able to look at everything about ourselves, including the things that are hard to face, and to be kind of like humbled by them, but also you certainly grow to understand yourself better.
Right.
I guess I get
Mhm.
there. Maybe a little bit differently. Maybe it's the same, but ultimately, I think where I start these days is just
Mhm.
first really trying to appreciate um, who I think I'm supposed to be, and kind of really kind of try to understand where all that's coming from, like all the ways we come into our lives, and try to hold on to our identities and our relationships, and really appreciate uh, that they're serving us in some way, but that often those parts of us get
Mhm.
exhausted because they are trying so hard to push away the stuff we would say is in the shadows, and to kind of help those parts to kind of say, you know, you can still be here doing this work, and it will be so much easier if you can also accept these other things about you that are just kind of there, and then these things that are scary or bring up uncomfortable feelings, like they can kind of join us at the table, and they get to have a voice too, and that's actually safer and better for my whole being, because it's
Mhm.
not like they're running you behind the scenes, but that they get to be in conversation with I guess the bright parts of you. So when I say it that way, it is shadow work, but it's about, yeah, like kind of letting things come out of the shadows and kind of join your whole being.
I absolutely agree. Think I'm kind of furzing up here,
Hmm.
but just bear with us.
Hmm.
We just kind of off on and off. It's like that yesterday too. So okay, but as long as you can still hear me, Anne, right?
Yeah, I can hear you. Yep.
Uh, Annie, can you great, great. So because we're back. Well, sort of. Okay.
Eh.
Um, this or um, that was published in 2018. About um, you kind of gave us wisdom of the iron pinnacle.
Mhm. Mhm.
You know, that is also like a spiritual philosophy
Mhm.
for different paths, like Egyptian Kabbalah and everything. How? Because some people may not know what the Iron Pinnacle is.
Mhm.
I was raised in the pagan family community, so I knew all that and
Mhm.
everything. Um, Is that something you can touch base on for our audience?
Sure. Yeah, so the Iron Pentacle, as I learned it, comes out of something that's sometimes referred to as the Anderson fairy tradition, and it's called fairy tradition, and it started with this couple, Victor and Cora Anderson, who were very influential witches, and they taught witches and pagans who have themselves become very influential in our communities, and started a number of type families like reclaiming witchcraft, or just fairy tradition in general. There are a lot of people who are involved in that tradition, and then the school I'm in, the Morning Star Mystery School, is kind of its own offshoot of fairy tradition. And so, how I understand it is that Victor kind of learned about the Iron Pentacle or received it, and then passed it along to his students. And so, it's basically it's a tool and also a map where the pentacle you run in your body, or it is your body. Your five limbs are the 5 points of the pentacle, and they each have a name associated with a quality that within us brings up a lot of intense feelings, and they're very powerful energies like sex, pride, power, self, and passion. And that running the pentacle is about kind of claiming yourself, like gathering your energy,
Mhm.
and letting those energies run together in a harmonious way, in a mutually supportive way. And also by running that, you're both like establishing those relationships and purifying your being of any blockages or shame, or excessive attachments you have that get in the way of those energies being able to move freely and powerfully through your being. And so it's both a way of kind of reflecting ourselves, but also it's a way of empowering ourselves, and initiating some of that personal work that lets us become even more able to run life force, and be powerful in magic. I think we might be in a freeze again.
Mhm.
Nope.
Awesome. Now you mentioned about the academy, the Morning Star Academy. Can you tell more about that? Because that started. Oh, okay. Hello, can you hear me again?
I can hear you now.
Oh no. Okay, Anthony, you still there?
I
Can you
can
hear
hear you
me?
now. Yep.
Oh,
We might be out of sync.
Anthony. Oh,
Hello.
okay. Okay. Still there?
Yep.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Hello?
Aw. Hello.
Hello? Okay, still there?
Yep.
Can you
Can you
hear
hear me?
me?
Yep.
Okay, great. Great. Um, I'm so sorry. We're kind of like in the middle of nowhere in the country. Yeah.
Hmm.
Um, We might. Yes. Just bear with this audience. We will. So much of it. Let's see. Now, can you hear me?
Hmm.
Okay. Great. Okay. So with the Morningstar Academy, oh, can you still hear me?
Yeah, it was a little blippy, but yeah.
Hello?
Hello.
Can you still hear me?
Yeah, it's just a little cutting in and out.
Okay. Yeah, I can hear you. Okay, great. So, okay, back to the Morningstar Academy,
Mhm.
which in 2015 you founded it. Now, was it you that founded, or was you co-finder of it?
Yeah, so there's two kind of separate things that got in that bio. The Morningstar
Uh,
Mystery School is I did not found that. That was founded by T. Thorne Coyle, who was a reclaiming and fairy witch, who I studied with for a long time, and looks like I lost him. I'm going to finish the. I'm going to finish. Keep talking while you're coming back. So Thorne had started Morningstar as an offshoot of fairy, and then it kind of became its own thing that was separate from that tradition and continues to this day. And so that was founded by Thorne, and I was a student for a long time. And then now I'm one of the teachers, and Thorne has stepped back, and now a lot of the students are now just kind of in it ourselves. So then the thing that I helped to co-found was called the Fellowship of the Phoenix, which is I didn't co-found the whole fellowship, just the Seattle temple. Originally, it was a community that was just had a temple in Chicago. At the time, it was the Brotherhood of the Phoenix. It was just for men and queer men. But then I want to say good gosh, must have been 2018 or so. Gosh, it must have been earlier than that. It was definitely pre-pandemic, but enough folks had come out to Seattle that we founded a Seattle chapter of that, and it became the Fellowship, which is now open to any queer identified person in Seattle or Chicago. Both temples are open, and so I helped to get that off the ground, and I was the vice president when I wrote the bio in my book, and I am no longer the vice president, so that bio is a little bit out of date, unfortunately. I don't know if it's just me now. I'm going to pause. I feel like I could just sort of keep talking. Uh, that's funny. I hope they come back. Uh, see if there's anything else to say while I'm waiting. Um, well, I could talk a little bit generally. So Morningstar, since that was brought up, that is the what most informs a lot of my writing. That is the cosmology that Circling the Star and Slow Magic come out of, and it is again an offshoot of the Anderson Fairy tradition, which has a lot of the cosmology in it. The cosmology of God herself, the star goddess, who is the progenitor of all beings, from whom we come and to whom we return, and kind of we all are a part of that being. And then I work with a lot with what's called the divine twins in that tradition. They are kind of the first offspring of God herself, and they are all dualities, all oppositions, bright and shadow, uh, I'm just thinking about variations of light and dark now, but up and down, left and right, uh, black and white. Any kind of duality. Those are the divine twins. And then the peacock, which is what arises when the twins are turned together. And so a lot of slow magic is using that movement of uh, totality, separation, and reunion as a way of exploring these different themes around magic, around time. So there's time as a general experience, then there's linear time and cyclical time. Those are the twins. And then they come together as the peacock into spiral time. And so that's a big rhythm of the book. There are three main sets of twins that it explores. Oh, you're
Okay.
back.
Yep. I'm trying to come back. I'm sorry. We have storms like we we live in the country, so
Mm-hmm.
we're in wide open fields. So when a storm is near us,
Mm-hmm.
it affects everything. So,
Mm-hmm.
but yes, I'm back. Maybe I don't know. So we can try it and see.
Well,
Okay, but thank you for continued talking. At
yeah,
least I can hear you and not
yeah,
me. You're the
good.
guest, so
Yeah.
hey. Um, so thank you for being a trooper here. Um, I want to touch base on your practice, okay? Because I know it says you are taking new clients. Now,
Mm.
are you taking new clients face to face and also online?
Mhm.
Can somebody do an online therapy with you?
Yeah, so yeah, I do both, but the caveat is that I'm only licensed to practice in Washington State. So if you live in Washington State, then I can do in-person therapy. I have an office. I'm in my office right now. I love it, and that's in Seattle. But then also I do telehealth for people who either can't come to the office or for whatever, like they live in a different part of the state, or health or other conditions make it not desirable. So I do have some room for new clients. So if people can reach out through look at my website and reach out if they're interested.
That's great. Because I saw that and I thought, I wonder if he does online because I know some therapists will do
Hmm.
online and
Hmm.
everything. Um, what is your next projects? I know you have done workshops and of course, write a book. Do you have anything new that's coming up?
Hmm. Yeah, that's a question I'm still kind of figuring out myself. I am One thing I'm working on right now is kind of a support group for therapists in or a consult. It's called a consultation group, but it's about helping therapists who are kind of needing to think about their work and their practice, and they're maybe getting a little burnt out, and facilitating, kind of helping them to support each other and think about ways to renew their enthusiasm. So that's something I'm working on right now, which I feel excited about. But it's a small thing, and I have a workshop coming up at Llewellyn's online conference, Llewellyn Con. I'm going to do a small workshop with them, and I'm looking, reaching out to different bookshops, excuse me, that I can do just promotional stuff to. But that all feels like, I don't know, that's a lot, and I have to remind myself that's a lot. But I have this part of me that feels like, well, but what's the next book, or what's the next like big thing? And I feel like right now I feel unclear about that. It's just we're training a puppy right now. That feels like a big project
Is
too, actually.
one uh, that is yeah, that is a big project, yes. Um, I have some people who have asked me this question, and it's something that's like, it's very good to ask a therapist this question because I'm not a therapist, so
Mhm.
I don't really know how to answer this question. But it's been up in my groups a couple of times in conversations, face to face. So, what would you say if someone asks you if there is a thin line between spirituality and mental illness? Or
Mhm.
can spirituality cause your mental illness or vice versa?
Mhm. Mhm. Yeah, that's a great question, and I do have a lot to say about that, but I'm trying to figure out where to start or how to, I think, you know, I just want to say at this point in my life, I think spiritual realities are real. Like I think there are beings, realities, forces that exist that we can't see or touch with our tangible, with our hands and fingers, but they have an influence on us, and they influence us often through our emotions or through our thoughts, or we can connect with through our imaginations. We can kind of interact with them, and then some things are just hard to connect with. So I do feel like that stuff
Mhm.
exists, and and I think I think there are. It's like a very complicated question because there are ways that some of these forces um, can affect us in ways that would result in what we would call a mental illness. We can become kind of obsessed, or we can become flooded, or we can um, kind of become so overwhelmed by experience or information, or fixation or craving, or sometimes really negative emotions that it can look like mental illness. And I think there's also mental illness, which is also its own thing, um, and sometimes it can, uh, what I think about it is that the psyche, our mind, is how we experience the world. It's everything how I experience like you right now, how I experience a God, it's all filtered through my psychology, because that's all I have to work with. That's my only framework for understanding myself in the world. And there's some things that are kind of baked into me, and some things that come out of my experiences. And so maybe I'm a very trusting person because I've had mostly positive experiences, and so I'm more inclined to see and pay attention to things that confirm that trustworthy sense of like the world is good, it's all trustworthy. And maybe I've experienced really hard things that make me feel like the world is not safe, and so I'm going to be more attuned to what's untrustworthy. And so those are like filters or lenses through which I see the world, or spirituality, or spirit. And and they might inform how I experience or interact with spirits, and they're not the same as the spirit themselves. Just like, uh, so that's getting a little bit away from your question, but it's such a good question and such a hard
Really.
question. Yeah.
It is. It is very hard when somebody asks me that. I'm just like, you do know I'm not a therapist, right?
Mhm.
Maybe
Mhm.
a high priestess, a podcaster, but I'm not a therapist, and
I
don't
am
claim to be because you know.
I am curious though, as a non-therapist, do you have a feeling, like, what do you think?
Well, what I think is I can see where somebody might put the two together,
Mhm.
but then I also see that you can separate it.
Mhm.
I'm always a person about time management. Um, separating your like my high priestess to a mother to a grandmother to a podcaster to, you know, I separate everything
Mhm.
there. And I know a lot of people is like, how do you separate it? And
Mhm.
I really cannot give the answer because I'm always been the type of person with time management for everything. Try to organize as much as I can. So when it
Mhm.
comes to this question, it's like, yeah, there probably is a thin line
Mhm.
to it. Um, I think it's probably with traditions. What kind of
Mhm.
spiritual tradition that you or someone may
Mhm.
be in
Mhm.
that can make you lined up with the mental illness. But to me, I always taught that spirit, your spirituality is something that is totally different. No one can take it away from you or
Mhm.
anything. It's inside
Mhm.
and everything,
Mhm.
mind, body, soul. And that the mental illness is probably coming from triggers and
Mhm.
from what's going on
Mhm.
in society.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
spirituality is supposed to help you with the mental illness.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
I don't really see that as a thin line, but some
Mhm.
people do. Um,
Mhm.
and that's okay. Everybody has their different thoughts on it. I just
Mhm.
thought since you was a therapist, I asked you that question because I like to see what you would think on
Mhm.
it.
Yeah. One thing
Uh,
I was reading about religious psychosis. I was really interested in the topic some years ago, and so I was reading some studies about. They studied kind of people in different religious communities who had a
mhm,
psychotic experience, and one of the things. There were a couple things I found really interesting, and one is that kind of like your psychosis corresponded to your religion. So like Catholic people had like psychosis that was Catholic themed, and
mhm,
Hindu people had like Hindu themed psychosis. But so there's something like you said about tradition and culture that's so integral to
mhm,
our psychology that
yeah,
that's a piece of it. But the other piece is that when somebody is having what we would call a psychosis or a delusion, somebody else
mhm,
in that community would listen to it and be like, "That's not right." Like they would say,
mhm,
God or Buddha or Isis or whoever told me to do this thing, and somebody else in the tradition be like, "I don't think
yeah,
that's right." Like a lot of, and so there's something about that community that's really important for our mental health, and I think that's a level for
mhm,
spiritual discernment as well.
yeah, yeah. Very good. Yeah. I You said so much better than me. So, uh,
Because you said it
your
great. I
next book
love listening to
will
that.
be about
Yeah,
yeah, that'd be the next book there, yeah. Uh,
yeah.
for your, techniques that you do for your therapy,
Hmm.
um, any kind of special techniques that you do
Hmm.
for your therapy?
Hmm. Yeah, I mean, I do something. I'm trained in something called internal family systems, which to me, I mean, there's a lot of similarities and overlaps in
Mhm,
a magical practice, but it's kind of like embodying and envisioning your different we talk about parts of self in this, where
mhm,
you identify a tendency or a thought or a repetitive feeling you want to get to know, and you imagine it like
yeah,
it's its own being, and then you can talk to it. So that's and that can be very profound.
great, great. Yeah, I always kinda wanna be a therapist, but I never
Hmm.
really wanted to go for school for it because I was so involved in so many other things and everything.
Hmm.
So,
Hmm.
but, that you know, does make sense. Yeah, if I was definitely in Washington, I would definitely say, "Hey, I'm gonna hit you up for some
No.
for some work here and
Hmm.
everything." So, another question that kinda like I get asked at times is, okay, because a lot of people thinks, okay, I don't need therapy. I'm okay. The universe would take care of me and stuff.
Hmm.
Um, the universe is my therapy, which
Hmm.
which I can understand that. Yes, the universe is your therapy too. However, you know, um, you should really talk to someone else too. Now, how would you explain that to someone who is like really stubborn and says, "No, I'm not going to see a therapist. I'm nature's my therapy. Universe is my
Mm.
therapy." How
Mhm.
would you tell them? But you know, a therapist can do blank. How would you actually tell them to really kind of get them to maybe come to you or to another therapist
Mhm.
to help them?
Mm. I would, kind of, I think one of the things I'd be kind of curious about, I mean, I'd want to, first, I think just like acknowledge like yeah those are very nature is very therapeutic and there's nothing wrong with going to nature to get your healing or your stability
Mhm,
and if you experience the universe supporting you in that way then that's really lovely so there's nothing wrong with any of that stuff and I'd also just be curious because I'd assume if I thought somebody needed therapy that I would be seeing something going on in their life that I'm like, nature isn't really quite helping you with this thing. Like you're hanging
yeah,
out, yeah, you're hanging out with the rivers
mhm,
and trees, but you still are talking about really painful stuff. And so I
mhm,
might just say that, like, it seems like you maybe need more support, or like you might appreciate more support. And there having a person who is just there to listen to you and they're just there because they care they're not in your life. You don't have to take care of them other than paying them, which I know is its own
mhm,
thing. That's not nothing,
yeah,
but otherwise, you don't have to worry about how they feel about you. You don't have to see them at dinner. Like you
mhm,
can just be totally yourself, and they're just there to listen to you. And like that is just so nice to have. Even if you get nothing out of it, it can just be so nice to have that person who's outside of your life who's just there to listen to you and care for you and it might be really freeing and also they
mhm,
might be able to support you in ways that maybe you don't know yet and I'd also just be I'd say that and I'd also just be curious if there is something what their concerns are because sometimes when people don't want to come to therapy they have some like legitimate concerns that they want to be heard out like maybe they had a bad experience with a therapist maybe they're worried about being judged or detained hospitalized and so I think if they're willing to share that stuff with you and you can share yeah, that makes sense. And also, here are some other possibilities and,
mhm.
like, yeah, you shouldn't see a therapist who makes you feel bad about yourself. Like that means that's not a good relationship. Like that can be helpful.
Understandable, yeah. I can understand that. Because what is going on, not to get into politics or anything, but what is going on today? I know a lot of people is like backing away from their path,
Mm,
walking on pins and needles,
mm,
you know.
mm, mm,
And I'm the person who's very, I just have faith. I'm like, things gonna be okay. Things gonna be
mm,
okay. Just
mm,
breathe, manifest is gonna be okay in thought
mm,
form. What would you tell somebody if somebody comes up to you and say, "Oh my God, this America's going to, shit in the handbasket or whatever
mm,
they say,
mm,
um,
mhm,
can't take it no more. We got this, we got that. I'm so afraid to go outside
mm,
and everything." What would you say to them?
mm. I just, I mean, I really appreciate feeling that way. And it makes sense. Like it's a scary time. And
Mhm,
I think there's a lot of really understandable things to be afraid of and angry about. And I totally get that. And, and I, I think what I think I heard you say was people backing away from the pack, like the
mhm.
pack, like, yeah,
The
yeah,
path, everything,
yeah,
yeah.
and yeah, but, and I'm like, you can feel like everything is going bad in the bigger sense and that's
Mhm,
I'm not even going to get into that with you because like I think it makes sense but also like what's happening in your community? Like, is there like, you know, we just get, we can see the news or social media, we see all this bad stuff, all this negativity,
Mhm.
um, all the like the worst parts of humanity are on full display, and
Yeah,
so it's easy to get caught up in that and to have this totalizing idea that everything is bad. But then if you go, uh, you know, hang out with your neighbor and have a really nice day, like that's not bad, like that, and that's good to connect with the people you can connect with. You don't necessarily have to agree with on everything 100%, but
right.
if you can hang out together, if you can support each other, if you can make food when you're sick, like just can you get involved in your local community, and get out of get off the internet for a little bit, get out of your house, like as much as possible, and totally understanding too that that can be very hard for people for a whole variety of reasons. But I think, I mean, honestly, that's become increasingly my feeling over the past several years. It's like we need to be connecting more in person, in community, because
Mhm.
it's the lack of that that's making all this stuff bigger and more intense and reactive. So that would be my encouragement.
I like that. I really do because yeah, it's about it's like some of the stuff I tell everybody, like get out more,
Mm,
just do something. Don't worry about it, until it actually happens or something.
mm,
Um, yeah, because like you said, it is kind of scary now.
mm,
But being united, I think if we just unite and not back down for
mm,
being united, that I think we can conquer about
mhm,
anything, really.
mhm,
I mean, that's just
mhm,
my perception of it.
mhm.
But
I
I
mean,
know,
that's the only way we're going to. So
yeah,
like, we might as well give it a shot. You know.
yeah. Everybody always says, "Oh, you're such a dreamer. You have
Mhm,
so much faith and everything." But it's like I said before, faith is nobody can really take that away from you
mhm,
unless you let them. That's
mhm, mhm.
my theory. Might be wrong. I don't know, because
That's beautiful.
you
Yeah,
know.
yeah.
But yeah. Well, anything else that you would like to say to the audience that we have not covered or anything?
Oh, nothing's coming to mind. I really appreciate this conversation and just really appreciate getting to connect and to talk about this stuff. And I think yeah, it feels good to be able to even name that there's hard stuff happening, but then
Yeah.
that we can still be together on it. I think that
No.
that matters. Yeah.
Yeah, it does. It really does. Um, Thank you for being a great guest. And I know it was kind of hard, sketchy in the first half hour. So, um, it's what you get when you live in the middle of nowhere. So,
Yeah.
has
Well,
its ups
I
and downs.
appreciate it worked out, and I just had that moment where I'm like, maybe if I just keep talking, like
Thank
so
you.
it's
Oh, thank you so much.
yeah.
I just want to say to the audience, subscribe, like, and share. Check out Anthony's website. Check out his books. Um, they're great. Um, they're great books to give to somebody who kind of needs it too. It's a
Mhm.
great gift, I would
Nice.
say. But thank you, Anthony, for coming on and sticking with us.
Mhm.
And blessings to everybody.
Blessings. Thank you.